Recording started, sir.
Shall we start?
Yes.
So good evening. Welcome to all the participants for the keynote address for this international conference organized by SSM College of Engineering, Chennai. It is my proud privilege to introduce to you the keynote speaker of the day, Nick Peachey. To say a few words, Nick Peachey is the Director of Pedagogy and Peachey Publications, an independent digital publishing company that specializes in the design of digital learning materials. He has been involved in education since 1990 and has more than 20 years of experience of working specifically with online and blended learning environments. He has worked all over the world, training teachers and developing innovative and creative products, and is a two-time British Council Innovations Award winner. His customers include British Council, Eton College, Open University, Google Creative Labs, and International House. His more recent projects have included 2 years as pedagogical manager for a 100% online school owned by Macmillan ELT. Head of content development for Eton X, a 100% online school owned by Eton College, and also a content developer for an English and interfaith dialogue course designed for the British Council and Al Azhar University in Cairo. He has written several books, which include Hacking Creativity, Digital Tools for Teachers, Thinking Critically Through Digital Media, Digital Video, a manual for language teachers, Conversation and Listening, and several others. He also co-edited Creativity in ELT Classroom and Creativity and the Sustainable Development Goals for the British Council. He is the editor for EdTech and ELT newsletter. In this session, he will look at a short collection of tools and resources that teachers and students can use in the remote and physical classroom. He will show example activities that can easily be adapted to your classroom context. Participants in this webinar will also receive a 50% discount code for a copy of his Innovations Award shortlisted ebook, Digital Tools for Teachers, Trainers Edition, which includes more than 100 recommended tools and more than 25 tasks and activities that teacher trainers can use in their tech training sessions. With these few words, over to you, Nick, for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Well, for me, it's good morning. I guess for you, it's good afternoon. It's nice to be back in Chennai, even if it's only virtually. I've visited Chennai a couple of times now, and it's always nice to go there. Okay, thank you for inviting me along, and I'll proceed with the presentation. Hopefully, you can all hear me. I'll just open my chat window just in case. Okay. Great. Okay, so first things, yes, this presentation is on digital tools and resources for the interactive classroom. Most of the tools, or all of the tools I'll be presenting here are free, so don't worry, they're not things that you have to pay for, although there are paid versions of some of them, which can give you some advantages. And I'd also like to tell you that at the end of the presentation, I'll give you the link to the presentation. So if you do want a copy of the slides and to go back through things and find some of the other links, then you're welcome to do that. Okay, so I'll give you a link to the complete slide presentation. I was going to use this slide to introduce myself, but I don't think I need to now. You've kind of heard enough about me already. If you want to follow up after the presentation on the different things I share through social media, there are links here along the bottom of the presentation that you can follow. Okay, so I'm going to start off with actually with a question for you. And the question is, which digital tools do you already use? You know, I'm quite interested in finding out the kinds of things that you're already using. If you have a mobile phone handy, you can scan this QR code with your mobile phone and you'll be able to fill in the questionnaire. If you don't have the mobile phone handy, then I'll share a link through chat with you. And if you hit this link, you can fill in the questionnaire. You just type in the ones that you use here. And then we should all be able to see the results together. So if you just use that link, and when they eventually appear, the tools will appear here. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to do that. I'll show you the instructions and the code again, just in case you haven't got it, or you can use the link in chat. I'll just give you a few minutes to sort of enter something, kind of tools that you already use with your students. Okay, let's just quickly go back and see if anybody's entered anything yet. Oh, so one person's entered. Oh yeah, that's starting to appear now. So Padlet and quizzes, yep, those are both quite popular. YouTube, WhatsApp, Zoom, yes, all very popular as well. Anybody else putting anything in? Oh yeah, Zoom, Google Meet. Yeah, Google Meet I haven't used so much. Oh, somebody's using Flipgrid and Jamboard. Yeah, those are very good as well. Lots of people using Quizlet as well. One of the tools that I'll show you is a bit like Padlet as well, but a different version. Kahoot, yeah, Kahoot's very popular. Answer Garden, great, yeah. Docs, Kahoot, Quizlet, okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll just move on. We can come back and have a look at that later if you want to see what other things other people are using. Okay, so I'd like to share some tools with you that I've been using for quite some time, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I use them. The first one is this. It's a tool called QPrompter, and it's very easy to use, and it's a great tool for getting your students' attention and helping them to gist read. When I first started teaching, I found it very difficult to get my students to gist read because they would always stop and check words in their dictionary. And so it would take them a long time to read anything. And what I wanted them to do was just read the text quickly to get an overview, an overall impression of the gist. And then we'd go back and analyze it later. But it was very difficult to get them to do that because, you know, they had the book, they had control of the text. So this is a nice way to get students' attention up, get their attention on the screen, and to force them to read more quickly. I'll show you how that works. I've got a text here, as you can see. This is text about a man and a donkey. I'm just going to copy that. So if I copy that now, and I click on this button here, I'll open a tool called QPrompter. And what I do is I come to this space here and I type in the text that I want my students to read. Okay, here's the text. I can decide how wide the screen is. I'm going to go for maximum width and the depth of pixels and sort of color and background. So there's my text. I want students to read that. You can see it's quite a long text. And then I click on prompter. And what that does is it puts the text up on my screen, large, black and white, so that students can read it. Then I can use these controls to choose the speed at which I get my students to read. And then I can start scrolling the text so that they have to read. So now I have the text on my screen, I have control of the speed of the text, and students have to gist read it. So I'm going to set you a little gist reading task. You have to read the story and decide whether you think it's true or false. So I'll just play it through for you. I'll play it at this speed. Hope that's not too quickly. Okay, and so now it starts scrolling and you can read. Okay, so that was quite a quick spin through the text. I played it at speed 5. It might have been a little bit quick. If you want to, you can always get your students to watch again. So if I want to go back to the beginning, I can do that. If I want to stop somewhere, I can just go straight back to the beginning there and play it again. So that was the just reading task. That was the text. So quick answer, was that a fictional text or a factual text? Just type into chat whether you think it was fictional or factual. Let's see if anyone can decide, fictional or factual. Yeah. So yeah, quite obviously it's fictional, but good place to start is sort of deciding on the kind of genre of the text or something like that, or what it's talking about. But that's a great way to sort of get the text onto your screen, getting control of the text and getting students to read it. Okay, and you can do that with any text. You just copy and paste it into the Q prompter here and click on Start Prompt. You can use it for a variety of tasks. It's a good way to get students' attention up and control their reading speed, and a great to get them just reading and take control of the text. Of course, the next thing you could do with it is actually get students in pairs talking and seeing how much of the text that they can remember. Or you could go through and look at specific words or vocabulary within the text, give them questions or comprehension questions of some kind. But it's great to get them just reading that and pushing their reading speed a bit so that they're not being dependent on a dictionary and checking every word and taking lots and lots of time to read something. Once you've got them through the text, it's nice to sort of actually try and pull out some vocabulary from that. And creating word clouds is a great way to do that. And this is a tool that I can use to create a word cloud, even if I'm working in the remote classroom. So what I want you to do, I'll share a link to this with you, and you can type in keywords from the text. So the link is there now in the chat. You can open it and type in any words that you think are keywords from the text. Try and type in 10. So and what you'll see as we type them in is the students' words will start to appear here. As different students add words, and the more popular words will be larger. So if you can type in some words, you need you've got the link in the chat, or if you want a QR code, then it's here. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to add some words to that. Okay, let's go back and have a look, see if anyone's adding. And what you'll see is as people add words to it, they start to appear, and the word cloud changes and moves. And that's a great way to sort of pull out key vocabulary from the task, and then we can sort of focus on it. You should be able to see them moving now as people are adding them. It's interesting that we've got a few words that didn't really come from the text, such as zebra. I think there's princess somewhere as well, dragon as well. So that might question your students' ability to read quickly in some ways, I guess. But generally, students do quite well at this. Okay, and once you've got those words out, you can save this word cloud, use it for revision of the text if you want to come back and revise the content, or students can use it to make sentences from the text. Okay, so they can choose keywords and make sentences, or rebuild the text and rewrite the text using some of these keywords. So lots of things we can do there with those word clouds. A great tool for pulling vocabulary out of a lesson. We can use it for revision, get students to retell the story, or just capture some of the vocabulary there. And that's quite an interactive task that you can do here in the remote classroom. And I'll show you how to set that up. The interactive elements of the presentation that I'm giving today, such as collecting your questions and your suggestions for tools and collecting the words for the word cloud, all come from a tool called Mentimeter, which you can find here. And it's a very easy tool to use. You just sort of click on create new presentation, give it a name. To create presentation. And then you can choose from over here, from the different kinds of tools that the different kinds of interactions that you'd like your students to use or to try. You can use open-ended questions, Q&A, or type in the answers, multiple choice questions, lots of different types of interactions. And once you've created your interaction, I'll just create a Q&A one there saying ask me anything. You can click to share it and you get a link to help students vote, and you get a link to show the presentation results. So that's a great way of creating interaction in your digital materials, whether you're embedding it into a website or using it in a presentation for an online class, as I am, like Zoom. There are all these different kinds of interactions that you can create and get your students involved in. So that's a tool called Mentimeter. Again, it's great for getting students input. You can do tests and evaluation using it, get students to formulate questions, get their opinions, get them brainstorming things, lots of different ways you can use that. I'll give you a link, put a link through chat into the chat for that if you ever want to try it later on. But you can come back and get the links from my presentation whenever you're ready. Okay, so we've looked at getting students to just read, getting them to reconstruct the text, getting them to pull out vocabulary from the text. But sometimes you want to go a little bit more deeply into the text and dig out some of the word relationships and the grammar. And this is a tool that I use to do that. If I just open the link here, there it is. It's an activity called Closed Test Creator. And if I click here, sorry, I can grab a little piece of text. So this is the first paragraph, from my text that I want to use. So I'm just going to copy that. So if I go copy as plain text, and then I go to my closed test creator. Now I'm filling it in there. Okay, so there's the text. And I'm going to click on this button here that says interactive. Okay, hope you can see that. And now I'm going to click on submit query. Okay, and what that does is it instantly creates this gap fill activity for me. So it's taken these words at the top, it's taken them out of the text, and now I have to click on different places in the text to put them back in. So let's go to and I can type in market and sell so market has appeared. If I type in horse, for example, and get it wrong, it stays red and it doesn't become part of the text. So I can change that to donkey. Okay, and as you see, when I change it, it becomes part of the text and I get a score here. So now I've got 2 from 24. So is it the man or a man? Let's try the man, yeah, and his son took the donkey to the market. So as I fill in the missing words, I'm increasing my score. I got 5 from 24 now, and it's sort of reconstructing the text. So that's a very easy way to create a closed test for students, and that gets them exploring the relationships of the words. As you see up here, it says every nth word. So I can decide how many words. If I put in 10 there, it will take every 10th word out. Okay. Or if I want to make it more dense, I can take every 5th word out. So that's taking more of the words out. I can, as you see it here, it says articles and prepositions. So if I want to just take the articles out, then I can focus my students on reviewing articles and deciding which articles go in which place. And the same thing for prepositions. Just takes the prepositions out. So if I want to revise prepositions, that's a great way to do it. There's one here that says, let me choose. I'm afraid that doesn't work. I've tried it a lot of times, but I've never been able to get that one to work. If you want a paper-based version, click on text only here and click submit, and that makes a non-interactive version. And now you can just sort of copy paste that into a worksheet or a Word document for your students to do if you want them to do a paper-based version. But this is great, a great way to create instantly interactive activities for your students that focus them on sort of word relationships or specific grammar items. It has its limitations in that, you can't actually save these activities. That you have to do them on the fly. But it's a great tool to share with your students so that they can make their own tests as well. So they can test themselves on the different aspects of the language. I'm going to just copy and paste a link to that into the chat for you. So if you want to try it yourself later, you can have a go, or you can get the link from my presentation as well. But this is sort of a great tool for creating instantly interactive activities that that we can make from just any text. We can cut and paste any text that we find on the internet. So we can find anything that our students are interested in, get them to read it, and then get them to explore some of the word relationships within it. And that's just a quick summary of the things that you can do with it. Focuses students' attention on word relationships. You can select specific grammatical points, and we can use it to build students' autonomous study habits by giving them that link and teaching them how to use it and create their own tests. Great for students who are wanting to study for exams, particularly because it's a very exam type focused activity. Okay. Any questions so far? If you have a question, you can quickly put it into the chat, and while I have a sip of water, if not, I'll move on. Okay, nothing coming through, so I'll move on to the next thing. We've already looked at reading, so gist reading and increasing the speed of students gist reading, looking at pulling words from text, getting students to reconstruct the text. We've looked at, with the closed text at some of the word relationships and getting students to explore those. So now I want to look at actually sort of working with text and getting students doing peer reviewing activities or correction activities. And this is a tool that we can use. Save the more general questions till the end, and we'll deal with those then. This is a tool that we can use to help students develop writing collaboratively. And it comes from a site called Cryptpad, which is a very useful thing. And it enables us to create a digital piece of paper that we can share with our students. We just go to the site, click on rich text. And if I wait for that to open, it becomes like a Word document, but online. And what I can do is I can get multiple students working on this together. I'll show you an example of that, and we'll try and get working together. So this is something I've created earlier on, and it's the text about the donkey. So now I've set the sharing so that anyone can edit, and I'll copy the link and I'll put that into the chat here. What I want you to do when you see the link is open the link on your computer and look for errors in the text. There are 10 errors in the text, and you can try and correct them. Okay. So there's the link to Cryptpad in the chat. If you click on the link, you can open it. You should be able to open it, and we can look at finding the errors on the text. And when you find them, just click on the text anywhere, and you should be able to start typing in and correcting the errors. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. See if you can get that link working. As you can see down this side of the screen, you can see that lots of people are joining, and at the moment they're joining anonymously. You can get them to write their names in as well, like I've put my name in on the side, which is a good idea. But now we've got, you know, a group of more than 10 people working on this collaboratively, you know, editing the text and you know, hopefully correcting it. If you do this with your students, I wouldn't advise you to use large groups. I'd get them to create the actual piece of paper and work on it in groups of about 3 to 4. If you get too many people working on the same text, it can become very chaotic and very quickly. But that's a great tool to instantly create some digital paper that students can work on together virtually. So if you're in a remote classroom like Zoom and you want to do writing work, you know, you can get students to work together on text, even though they're not in the same place. So that's a very useful tool for developing writing skills. And as I said, you know, great for, it's called Cryptpad. It's great for getting students to do collaborative writing. You can get them to peer edit each other's writing and improve each other's writing. If you do process writing, for example, you can give them notes and get them to fill those out. So it's great for developing process writing, or you could get them to use it for note taking in the digital classroom. You know, taking notes in this kind of Zoom environment and sharing them can be very difficult. But if you use a tool like this, it's quite easy and great for projects and teamwork as well. Okay, I'll just look back to see, I'll give you a link, the link to the original site, which is Cryptpad. Now, if you're looking at my screen again, you'll see Cryptpad and you just use the rich text one here, just click on it to open it. You can also create collaborative presentations, Kanban boards, or even open up a collaborative whiteboard here if you want to. So it's a very useful tool for that as well, which can either be used just by you or you can sort of share access with your students if you want to get everybody sharing the same whiteboard. So Cryptpad is a really useful collection of tools, really. I'll share the link with it to you. So there's the link to Cryptpad if you want to try that at some point. Okay. Still on the theme of reading and writing, I'd just like you to show you something else that is a particular favorite of mine and something I've used a lot with students to sort of get them being a little more creative and inventive in their writing. And this is something called telescopic text. Hopefully you can see the screen at the moment. What does it say at the top of the screen? Just type it into chat, could you please? Okay, great. So you can see it, okay? So it says I'm a T, and this is kind of typical of the kind of written work that I used to get from my students when I first started teaching. I'd ask them to sort of, you know, write about something that you did at the weekend, and the result I would get something like this: I made tea. And I would say to them, surely you did more than that, you know, or they'd say, oh, I watched TV, or I went to the beach, or I slept, or something like that. So this is a way of showing them that even if you did something very simple, you can still make a much better text about that. So what I do is I show them this and I say, this is an example. Okay, so you say you made tea, but you can make that more interesting. Now, you made a cup of tea, okay? Made a nice cup of tea, made a nice hot cup of tea. So now we're building up and making the text a bit more interesting by adding some adjectives and a nice cup of strong tea, okay? I made myself a nice hot cup of strong tea. Okay, now we can add more details. So I boiled the kettle, then I made myself a nice hot cup of strong tea. And you can see that tea is always the last word still here. So we're not adding, extra things. We're just sort of filling out and adding more detail. And okay, so, now we're adding a bit more. I boiled the kettle grumbled, so I poured water on the tea bag and watched it brew. I put the tea bag in the bin, I picked up my mug, I left the kitchen with a nice hot cup of strong tea. So already becoming a lot more interesting, but we can sort of keep clicking on these things and as you see, you know, our text keeps on growing. And we're just sort of adding more and more detail, adding some relative clauses, adding more description. And this goes on for quite some time there. We've added some parentheses. Okay, I'll share a link with that to that with you, so you can give it a try if you want to. And that's, that's a great way of, showing students that even if you did only one simple thing, you can still expand that and make that much more interesting. Okay, so even though we only had a cup of tea, or made a cup of tea, we can actually make quite a detailed text about that if we put our minds to it. And of course, once I've shown students this, I can get them to analyze and think about, well, how did that we make that text more interesting? What are the things we did to sort of to build up the text? And still the first word is I, and still the last word is tea. So that's quite a good activity to do with students, to show them how to build text. Oh, sorry, that's the same one again, wrong link. It comes from a site called telescopictext.org, and you can use this site to build your own texts like that if you want to. So if you wanted to do one as an example for your students that include their names, or it was more personalized for them, you can sort of register there and build your own text if you want to. It's quite simple to do. One activity that I like to do with my students, though, is I like to use the Cryptpad that we used last time, for example. And I'll show you how to do this. I'll just go back there. I'll create a text. So I'm creating a new digital piece of paper, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. So this will take a couple of minutes. So that's my text. And I'm going to put in a sentence. I watched TV. Okay, now I'm going to click on share and make sure you can edit it and click on copy. Now I'm going to put that link into the chat for you. And what I want you to do when you get the link is start adding pieces to the sentence in the same way that we did with the telescopic text. Be careful. Usually I do this with just 2 students and get them in pairs to take it in turns to add to the text, but will be many more than 2. So it could get a bit chaotic. Okay, so there's the link. See if you click on that link now, you'll be able to join the text and start adding to it. One rule is any words that you add must be before TV. The last words always have to be TV. As you can see, it's becoming, we've got quite a few people joining. So see if what you can add to the sentence to make it longer. If you're trying to edit, you can probably see now why I only do it with 2 students and get them to take it in turns. It can be very chaotic if we've got lots of students doing it all at the same time, especially the first time you use it, because it takes them a little while to get to understand how to use this properly. But as you can see, we're already sort of building up a much more detailed sentence, much richer vocabulary, a lot more description, and a much nicer piece of text than just I watch TV. Oh, somebody's managed to delete the whole thing. Okay. Okay, so we'll go back. You get the gist. And as I said, but make sure you don't use it with more than 2 students if you're doing that kind of activity. Get them to take it in turns and add a little piece each. And expect a little bit of chaos the first time you do it, because it takes a while to get the hang of it. Okay, so we've looked at, we could actually, with the telescopic text, with that activity, we could actually go back to our text about the donkey and get students to enhance that text as well and add more details and things like that. So that, that's another way that we can use it as well. We've looked at gist reading, we've looked at pulling vocabulary from text, we've looked at making that more interactive, we've looked at reading, and writing and making writing collaborative. So let's have a look at something that's more to do with speaking and listening now. And this is a very useful tool if you want to get your students to do some speaking activities at home for homework and send them to you. It's a tool called Vuckaroo. And it works very simply in the web browser. So they just have to open the web browser. They can use it on mobile if they want to. I'll add a link to it to the text chat if you want to see it. Okay, and it's very simple to use. You give your students a speaking assignment. Short speaking assignment could be to talk about what they did at the weekend. They open the recorder, they click on the record button, and press allow, and then they start speaking. So it's recording me now. So at the weekend, I worked on the Saturday. I was very busy and had to do a webinar and catch up on some work that I was doing. And on the Sunday, I spent most of the Sunday with my daughter. I took her to a playground and we went and had an ice cream. So that's my speaking activity. I've stopped and now I can listen back. Okay, so I've recorded my speaking activity. If I'm not happy with it, I can press this button here and try again. But once I've finished it, I can click on save and share. So if I'm happy with it, then I've got this little link here and I just send that to my teacher and my teacher can then listen. So it doesn't involve too much in the way of in the way of uploading and downloading. I've shared the link with you now, so you can actually listen to it and hear it. Zoom wasn't playing back my audio, but you can have a listen and hear it. And so that's quite easy to do, easy to record yourselves, easy to share it. It's a great tool if you want to use it in the classroom to record examples of sentences or pronunciations for students and share it with them very easily. If you want to, you can download and save the files. Once you've recorded them, it's very easy to download it. You can embed the audio. You get an embed code if you want to embed it into sort of digital materials that you're creating. And it even gives you a QR code if you want your students to scan the audio straight onto their mobile phone if they use these QR codes. So for me, that's a really useful tool and, something to get our students doing spoken homework at home, or we can use it to record examples of listening, example sentences and that kind of thing. Very easy to use and free to use. Okay. And there's just a quick summary of the things that we can do. Create speaking activities, listening activities, get students to make audio notes of sample sentences and pronunciation. Okay, so that's Vuckaroo. So far, the kind of things that we've been looking at are fairly sort of traditional. The methodology, at least behind them, is very traditional and fairly standard. And I think, one of the things that we do have to think about is, how things like the internet and multimedia devices are impacting on the way students develop their literacy skills, because things have changed, and yet, most of the classroom materials we give to our students are what I call monotexts. For example, when we get our students to do reading activities, we give them a single text, they read through it in a very linear way, and then maybe answer questions or do activities based around the text. And that's no, that's fine, but it's not very authentic in terms of the way, lots of us use text and access text through the internet these days. In fact, when, most of the time when we're accessing text through our computer, we're actually mixing lots of information from lots of different texts. We might go to Google first, find a number of different articles. We might find a video, we're pulling in other information. And we're synergizing lots of different information from lots of different sources. And that's something that I've tried to imitate for my students so that they get used to working in that kind of way and develop that kind of digital literacy. And I've used a tool called Millernote. And what I've done, what you can see on the screen is an activity that I created for them. And what they had to do was I gave them a task and they had to use these resources to plan a 3-day trip to Cambridge together. And so at the top here, they've got their task. They've also got their task list on the left, so they can tick those off as they do them. And here they've got 6 different resources. And one is a text about Cambridge for tourists, telling them things to do and places to visit. I've got another one, which is a link to Flickr, where they go and find images of the different places that they have to visit, and there's their task underneath. Then they've got a link to Google Maps to a map of Cambridge, and they can find those places on the map. There's a little video that they watch to see if they can see the places. And then, of course, if they're planning a trip anywhere in England, if you're planning a trip, you have to check the weather. So there's a link to the weather in Cambridge. And there's also a link to what's on in the evenings, so they can plan their evenings as well. And this, I'll share a link with you to this. This is what it looks like live. So, and it's a lot like Padlet. For those of you who've used Padlet, you have these sticky notes that you can drag around. You can also set up these tasks, and you can sort of add different things like comments if you want to add comments to different things. I can zoom in to make it larger. If I want to show it on a screen to my students, I'll zoom out, and I can share a link with them so that they can access the different materials. I'll just copy and paste this into the chat if you want to have a look. Okay, so there's a link to the chat in there if you want to come and have a look. And as I said, all they have to do once they're here, so they don't have to go searching around Google and finding all sorts of things. They can find click on here, they can find a map of Cambridge. That one's not opening for me at the moment. Okay. Or they can click to watch the video. There's the video playing. I can go full screen with that if I want to. They can click here to check out the weather. And they have to find Cambridge and check what the weather's like. And there's their map. There's their map of Cambridge, and they can search for the different places that they see and want to visit. So King's, let's find King's College. Everybody wants to visit King's College Chapel. Okay, there, and they've found it on the map. They can even sort of pull some images of it from there, see what it's like. And, potentially they can even go to a street view and look at the street and search around the street there if they want to. So lots of things that they can do, and a very kind of interactive, collaborative task that they can work on together, and they plan their trip using those different web-based resources. And again, that's easy to create. You can create it about any city, same sort of thing about any city or any topic, and that uses something called Millernote, which is here. I'll share the link with you. There's the link, it's in the chat now if you wanted to try that. And you can sign up for free and you get 100 cards. And if you sign up your students, you get sort of a few hundred more. I've also used it for a number of things. I actually use it for, doing my own web-based research. So it's very good for that. So for example, I was doing some research into process writing here. And so I've collected sort of various sources of information. I was working on this with someone else, so various sources of information, and I can sort of come back and find them later. It's got infographics, it's got links to texts, it's even got videos, and I can work on that collaboratively with a research colleague if I want to. And it's very easy to sort of just add these. You can just sort of add a link to one of these pads. So that's Millernote, very useful tool. As I said, a lot like Padlet, it's free to use. You can do lots of different things with it, create multi-text reading activities, or do collaborative research together and get students to do collaborative research together. This is something that's nice for doing speaking activities and great for younger learners, although I find that adults enjoy it too. And it's a way of creating animated videos, and students can download this app. It's a free app that you can download onto a mobile phone or a tablet, and it works without an internet connection as well. So once it's on your student's device, they don't need to use the internet, which can be great if you've got students or classrooms where you don't have a connection to the internet for students, or they can work from it at home if you're doing the Zoom lessons. And what it does, it enables students to create these little videos like this one here. I'll show you this one. I'll share a link to, no, I'll just show it to you. And you won't be able to hear the sound. I'll mute the sound anyway. Okay, and what it does, it enables our students to create these little animated videos like this one here. And all they do is they choose a background, they choose these different characters that they want to put in their video. And when they're ready, they just press play and press on the character, and they just move them around on the screen with their finger and record their own voice with the phone. So they can use different characters, and they can do this together and create these kind of little animated videos like this one. Once they've finished them, they can export them as video, save it on their phone, or they can upload them or share them with you if they want to. But it's a very simple way to get students, doing some speaking, and they can use it and at the end of it, they have a kind of nice, video that they can show and share with friends. There's a little tutorial here if you want to see how it's done. Again, you probably won't get the sound, but you just choose a story. You choose from there are different parts to the scenario of the story and different scenes which you can add or take away. And then once you've chosen your story, you choose one of these backgrounds. And then you choose which characters you want in your video. So I've chosen this background and those two characters. They appear when I click on start. I can start recording my voice, and I start moving them around, and that just creates the video. So, simple, quite motivating task for students to get them speaking and creating animated video. And if you go to the website, it has lots of tips and advice. There's an education section, and it shows you the kind of things that you can make with it, and has some examples. You can use it to get students doing school reports or something like that. Lots of different things you can get students to make, using their voice and doing speaking activities. Again, I'll put that into chat for you if you want to have a look, but you'll get it later on anyway. Okay, so this is the last thing that I'll show you, and it isn't exactly a tool, it's more of a resource, and it's a resource for sort of prompting creativity. Now, often our students can't think of anything to do when we want them to do creative tasks, such as, creating the little video or doing writing exercises. And this is a useful tool that helps us to generate creative prompts. And it has lots of different prompts down the side that can help students be more creative. So for example, if you want to create an instant storyline or a story idea, you just add an adjective and a noun, just click on that. and it gives you a title for a story. You can swap those around if you want. The magnificent hammock, the imaginary hammock, the imaginary table. So it gives students a, it creates a random title for students to base a story around. If you want to give them more detail, you can go to a quick plot creator, click on there, and it generates a quick plot for students. Your main character is a woman in her early 30s who can be quite anxious. Story begins at a campsite. A witness to a crime disappears suddenly. It's a story about justice. Okay, so now they've got their plot scenario and they can build a story around that. If they don't like it, they can click and get lots of other different ones, and it randomly generates those. Character exercises as well. The random character exercises creates random characters that they can use. So this one is, I just click on it. Character is a man, he's in his early 40s, it's very considerate, it comes from a poor background. Okay, so he's one of your characters, and the other character is a man in his 70s. So instantly generates characters, and these can help students sort of prompt them to get more ideas. So if you want to do creative work with your students, they're very useful to use. There's also a children's section if you want sort of something to work with children, and a girl who danced with a dog. Okay, so write a story about a girl who danced with a dog, or a girl who upset a scarecrow, or a girl who tickled an ice cream. Again, you can get animal characters here. A posh caterpillar who's always taking risks. So useful things to have to generate activities and ideas for creative activities. And I'll copy that into the chat for you. Okay. Okay, we're sort of running out of time now, so I have got some other links to share with you. But if you've got any questions, you can scan a link to the questionnaire here. I'll also give you a link through chat. And so if you have any questions, now's a good time to put them in. So hit that link at the bottom there, or scan the QR code, and that way we'll all be able to see the questions together as they appear here. Okay, I'll just give you the QR code again. So you can either scan the QR code, use the link that's in chat, or you can go to menti.com, type in this number here, and you can enter questions there. And then we'll all be able to see them, and I'll deal with some of them. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to think about it and add your questions in while I have some water. Okay, I'll see if any questions are appearing. Okay, so the first question's appeared, yeah. So where do I find the resources? Well, it's difficult to remember. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been involved in digital education and using resources like this since 1998. So that's over 20 years. So I've built a lot of them up over time. I subscribe to different discussion lists and discussions and find them there. Sometimes people send me the links. They know that I share a lot of links, so they share links with me and say, "Can you share this with people? Do you think it's useful?" So they come from all sorts of resources. But I think it's important to sort of look around at what other teachers are using and look at what blogs they're writing and things like that. And that's where you can find a lot of these kinds of things. How many interactive activities can we have in a 50-minute session? That's an interesting question. And I think that the answer to that isn't really about the number. The answer about it is, is what do you want to achieve in your lesson? It's all about thinking about what you want to achieve with your students and finding the right tools to achieve that with, and sort of, building the right kinds of activities around them. I think that it might only be one in one lesson. If you might be doing a writing lesson and just use Cryptpad, or you could be doing a speaking lesson and just use the little app that I showed you for creating videos. Really, it's more about the purpose and why you're using them, and making sure that there's you have a pedagogical aim rather than setting a target for how many you use. Some lessons you might not want to use anything. Zoom is very good, and interacting through the camera can also be very important. You don't have to have lots of tools, but there are tools that can help you do specific tasks. So think about what you want to achieve, and then think about what's the right tool to do that. How do we avoid technology fatigue? That's an interesting question. I think one of the easiest ways to avoid, for me to avoid technology fatigue, at least Zoom fatigue when I'm doing these sessions, is that I always do the sessions standing up rather than sitting down. And I have my Bluetooth headset, so I'm not chained to my computer, and I can move around a lot, and that gives me sort of some space and makes me more energetic when I'm teaching or presenting. I think the other thing about sort of getting technology fatigue is trying to do too much. We don't have to use lots and lots of interactive tools, or even lots of tools. We just have to find things that are useful and which enhance our teaching and students' learning. Don't feel that you have to keep up with every new tool and use every new tool that appears. How long each of the activities last, it really depends on what you're doing with it and the level of your students. Some of them could take a whole lesson, some of them could just be 10 or 15 minutes. It really depends a lot. Between choosing the app site to set the teaching objective and adapting the teaching method in class to use the app site and ensure you recommend the former. How do we convince teachers to do that? Convincing teachers to use technology, I think, is it really helps if you give them examples of things that they can do, as I've tried to do today. I've tried to give you some solid examples of things that you can use straight away in your classroom, and that can really help. I don't think teachers should need convincing to do this. What they really need is sort of support, and make sure that they have the resources and training to do that. And I think, that's the key aspect, I think, really, is training. A lot of training is kind of neglected a lot, or teachers just expected to do it themselves a lot of the time. On writing skills, I won't suggest more resources on writing skills now, but I will give you a link where you can find them in a few minutes. Academic writing, again, I'll give you the same thing. What are activities suitable for learners with mother tongue influence? Now, I think all students have mother tongue influence. It's not something that's avoidable. We just have to accept that as part of their pronunciation background. Is it worth considering an old tool for research now? The age of the tool isn't important. What's most important is that it does the job that you want it to do, and it does it effectively. How to handle anti-technology sentiments. I think the easiest way to handle anti-technology sentiments for people is to be sensitive to their sense to their anti-technology feeling, but at the same time show them examples of how it can be useful. If they have examples of how it can be useful and you give them enough training, I think you can overcome those things. Hopefully all of the things that I've showed you today are user-friendly and can be used in real classrooms. So go back and check out those links. And teach. Some of those have already been included, and I'll give you a link at the end. So if I'll just move on. If you want to follow up this and find out more, find different links and find out more about technology, once you get to the link to my presentation, check out these links here. I publish a monthly newsletter, which is free, where you can get more links and information about that. So you can come here and sign up if you want to. I write a blog, you can check that out. I also have a number of publications. I'm busy on Twitter, so if you follow me on Twitter, you'll find sort of lots of different resources. More importantly than that, though, there's a book here that has categorized links to different resources. It also has, examples of training sessions, 20 training sessions that you can do with teachers if you want to become a teacher trainer. So if you're interested in that and finding more tools, just go here, click on Buy Now, add your details, and where it says add coupon code, just add the code CPD, and that will make the book half price for you. So if you do want a half price copy of my book, by all means, just go there. I'll put that into chat for you. You can go there and download a half price copy, and that also gives you lots of advice on training teachers, dealing with some of the issues that we've talked about reluctant teachers, and has about 13 chapters of categorized links for pronunciation, links for speaking, links for writing. If that's not enough for you, there's also I also publish a number of materials that you can check out, and I publish a website here called Tools for Teachers and Learners, and this has a collection of around 1,500 different tools and resources that you can use to enhance your teaching. It's free to subscribe to if you want to subscribe, and I'm updating it quite regularly. There are new things coming through every couple of days. I'll add the link to that for you there. So that's called Scoop It Tools for Teachers and Learners. So you can just go there, and if you click on the filter here and type in, for example, pronunciation, click on search, and it should, well, it's not working at the moment. Come on, pronunciation, search. And it should find all the things related to pronunciation for you, which should be here. So if you still want more links, then go to that site. I'm pretty much out of time now. I'll just share the last thing to say is thank you for listening. There's a QR code that you can scan if you want the presentation, but I'm also putting the link to the presentation in chat. Presentation link, there it is in the chat. So if you want to go through and get all the links and the links to my social media, everything is there if you want to sort of go through and get that. And all of these slides are interactive. You just need to click on the different things. So, if you want to find out more, by all means, do get the link to the presentation, work your way through it, and follow up on some of that. So thank you. Thanks for listening. Hope I haven't overloaded you with too much, and I hope the answers to the questions were helpful. And good luck with your teaching. I hope you enjoy it and get something from it. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you so much. As Nick was telling in his speech, in his training session, this was a purely hands-on session where the participants were also going after the resources, and his style of training, was very evident. He actually walks the talk and took us through all the resources, and the wow factor which was there. The wow factor was there from the beginning till the end, and he has given us so much more to explore and to learn. That was such an amazing training session for all of us. On behalf of the SSN ELT 2020 conference organizing committee, I would like to place on record our sincere gratitude to Nicholas Peachey, Nick Peachey, right, for finding time and sharing his knowledge and experience with us.
Thank you very much. Thanks. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
And I would also like to thank the SSN management, the principal, the convener of the conference, the HOD, the coordinators, and all the team members in the English department for organizing this event. We'll be back tomorrow in the morning and hope to see you all there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.